In the meantime, the Chief of Defense Staff, Olufemi Oluyede, says there is no targeted killing of Christians in Nigeria, noting that the country is open to collaboration with other countries on combating terrorism. He spoke amid claims of Christian genocide in Nigeria from certain right-wing U.S. politicians. The CDS assured Nigerians that the military will intensify operations to ensure peace and stability across the country. The senator representing Kaduna Central Senatorial District, Shehu Sani, in the Nigerian National Assembly, and he joins us now along with a global policy analyst, Professor Yomi Fawehinmi, both of whom will be discussing the implications of the U.S. allegations on Nigeria's reputation. Gentlemen, Honorable Senator, thank you so much for joining us. And Professor, I want to say thank you for coming on, and good evening to both of you. Let me start with you, Honorable Senator, and just talk about, what are the potential diplomatic repercussions for Nigeria's international relations, particularly with the United States and ECOWAS, following President Trump's genocide allegations against Nigeria, especially in light of Nigeria's rejection of these claims by both the Chief of Defense Staff and ECOWAS. Senator Sani.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, sir. Please continue.
All right. Well, first of all, I come from Kaduna State. And to the knowledge of everyone, Kaduna is divided between the Christian-dominated southern part of the state and the Muslim-dominated northern part of the state. And for all that I know is that both the Muslim side and the Christian side have been facing the problems of terrorism and banditry in the last 10 years or 15 years. Muslims are killed, Christians are killed, they attack churches, they attack mosques, they raise down Muslim villages and raise down Christian villages. So when the claim of genocide against Christians comes, I wonder what becomes of the other side, because I know that even the Christians that are victims knew that even the Muslims are not free from the activities of these bandits and terrorists. And it is not helpful for us as a nation, for any foreign power to think that coming into our country, taking sides, now will solve the problem. And the question I've always asked is that, where has foreign intervention ever solved any problems in this world? It has not done that in Libya, it has not done that in Iraq, it has not done that in Somalia, it hasn't done that in Syria, it hasn't done that in Yemen, it hasn't not done that anywhere. So if there are examples of where it has succeeded, then we can say that it has happened. But in our country today, we knew that we have a problem. And the failure of successive governments to address the issues is also our own problem. If governments cannot address the problems of insecurity, we collectively unite and remove them and bring people who can solve our problem ourselves. But one thing I very know is that no superpower goes to any country that does not have resources, and they go there for resources. Now, Putin is being demonized, is being castigated for doing what? For saying that he has invaded the eastern part of Ukraine in order to protect the ethnic Russians that are in the Donbas area. Why was Hitler a devil? He was a devil because he invaded Poland and Czechoslovakia in the name of protecting ethnic German minorities there. Today we woke up in a day. We have a Nigerian army. We have security apparatus of the state. All that you need to do is to say that we are going to work together, because it is in our own interest that these terrorists be annihilated and be crushed. But you cannot cross on our sovereignty to invade us because you are a superpower. And at the end of the day, you destroy our country and leave us, because that's what they did to Libya. They told the whole world Gaddafi was evil, he was bad, he was a Satan. Let's remove him. They removed him and left Libya in ruins. Let's look at it. A country of 230 million people. There is no nation that can take refugees from any part of this world. What did Trump did in South Africa? In South Africa, he said the government, the black people, are oppressing the whites. And now he opened a visa channel for the whites to be in South Africa. In our own case here, he wants to launch a military attack. And people who are supporting him said, why should you say anything if it is only they are going to crush the bandits and the terrorists? Well, there will always be an imperial invasion will always come with one reason. But the point is that we will all pay the price for it. Any attack launched against Nigeria is likely to turn into an ethno-religious violence in Nigeria. Because these terrorists and these bandits don't have a town, don't have a village, don't have a city that this is where they live. They disappear into the civilian population. And then who do you attack? And has all the attacks that have been done by Nigeria, has it been able to solve the problem? It has also not solved the problem. So as far as I'm concerned, US is sophisticated enough. They have intelligence, they have the wherewithal.
Seem to have lost Senator Sani there. In the meantime, let me quickly bring Professor Yemi into this discussion. Now, sir, how is Trump's claim and the subsequent denials by Nigerian officials likely to impact Nigeria's national security policies and the operational focus of its military, particularly regarding counterinsurgency and interfaith violence preventive measures? Professor Fawehinmi.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. Thanks for having me. I think what's clear is that the claims by the United States president is a significant claim. The proposal that the president of the United States, whatever he says or thinks, is critical. And that's why he's the president of the United States. We call him the #1 citizen for that purpose. Is it everything he says or believes that is true? Maybe not, because he's human. Is it also that everything that he says so that can be validated? Maybe not. But I think one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is that Nigeria has laws and policies that describe the freedom of religion. So this country says in that constitution that you cannot be discriminated on the basis of that. So we have laws. The Nigerian constitution also says that the welfare and security of citizens shall be the purpose of government. We have that in the constitution. I think his own characterization of what has happened as genocide is his own violated. But the law in Nigeria, the constitution says the welfare of Nigerians shall be the purpose of government. So the question we need to ask ourselves is that why did government fail that led to the killings of Nigerians? How did government react to the killings of Nigerians? And that's where your question comes to us it's very critical when you talk about policies, counterinsurgency. What are we doing as a nation to reframe what we're doing, to present what is really happening? Everybody in this country knows there was a time in Nigeria where mosques were being bombed, churches were being bombed. There was a time in this country where almost every Christmas and Easter, everybody was afraid because of the likelihood of a bomb going off in a church, for example. Now, we have had that before, and we have been able to change that. What has changed, however, is that there is now more of these attacks that it's getting difficult to define because there are various dimensions to it. So it could be ethnic, people rustling over cows, over grazing lands. It could be communal fight between various communities. It could be religious. Now, that interwovenness does not still mean any Nigerian's life should be taken. And that for me is a bigger question. The argument over whether there is genocide or not looks to me like a secondary conversation. The argument whether it's Christians being killed or Muslims being killed looks like to me like a secondary. The primary conversation is Nigerians are being killed. Right. And if a Nigerian is killed, that's a violation of the right of life of that Nigeria. And that is a failure of government, because the government says the security of that guy is the purpose of government. So I think before we start to talk about, the US government or President Donald Trump, we need to ask ourselves, why is our government not having the capacity to prevent Nigerians being killed? And unfortunately, if one is killed, what are we doing to ensure we bring the person to book? To date in Nigeria, nobody can point to any time when a prominent Nigerian really got jailed for any act of terrorism in this country.
Right. Let's just pause here in this discussion. We need to go on a short break, but when we return, we're going to be talking about the conflicting narratives between the Trump's administration and Nigerian authorities' denial. After the break, if you're just watching, you're tuned in to Tonight on News Central. Stay with us. Welcome back on to Tonight. Our guest this evening is the former senator representing Kaduna Central Senatorial District, Senator Shehu Sani. He joins us live from Kaduna. Also joining us is a global policy analyst, Professor Yomi Fawehinmi, and both have been discussing the implications of the U.S. allegation on Nigeria's reputation. There was something you said, Professor, which I would like to dwell on for a while. And it was far back in, I think it was 2007, 2008, 2009, which were the church attacks between Abuja and Kaduna area metropolis at the time, where people couldn't go into churches, and when they did, bombs were going off very quickly. And so when you see all that incident that happened, repeated cases that happened, and of course the Nigerian army was able to thwart the attacks then, and we stopped hearing, bombs going off in churches. Senator Sani, you are not only a rep but also an indigent of Kaduna. We've had cases of targeted, attacks in southern Kaduna. Is it conflicting narrative between the U.S. claims of genocide and Nigeria? And what does this mean in a coordinated effort to sort of, quell the tensions between the two nations? Can they quell tensions at this time?
Let me start with Nigeria, first of all. You see, I still wonder how a country like ours, with all our resources, and a trained army and trained policemen and trained security agencies, a nation of 230 million people cannot crush terrorists that are no more than 5,000 in our country. And it is so shameful at times to see terrorists operating for over 6 to 8 hours in a place without them being tackled. Recently in Niger State, they attacked the areas of Kontagora and Ibeto and operated freely without any support to crush them. So you see, from our own side, we have a problem on our own side. And on the side of the United States, Trump is not passionate about Christians in Nigeria. He's not passionate about Muslims. He's not passionate about Nigeria. What borders on Trump is simply governance is about making money and making businesses. That's why you see he is more emphasizing on his own relationship with the Arab world. He goes there and get business deals of trillions and trillions of dollars. That is what matters to him. And wherever he goes, he look at everything from a business perspective. Recently, he was telling Zelensky that Ukraine has to pay for protecting Ukraine. And he's also telling Democratic Republic of Congo they have to pay with their minerals. So for anybody in Nigeria thinking that he is here for love, for religion, for faith, I think he's just wasting his time. In this country today, the problem we have is a problem we can solve.
Can we solve that problem? I mean, can we solve that problem? Because we've been seeing the attacks both in the Middle Belt as well as, northern Nigeria, Kaduna, Plateau, Benue.
Let me tell you about this now. How many states do we have in Nigeria? We have 36 states and FCT. For all what I know is that in all the claim of this genocide, you can remove the whole southern states out of it. Yes. And all the claim of genocide also, when you remove the Muslim part of the north. So the issue of genocide is reduced to Benue, Plateau, and parts of Taraba, and in fact, southern part of Kaduna. So you can see my fingers. Now, you ask yourself, what has been happening in Zamfara? What has been happening in Katsina? I'm a Muslim, and I prefer now to travel to Benue, to Plateau, to Taraba State, than to go to Zamfara and Katsina State or Sokoto State. Because to me, those places are even safer than the ones in the northwestern part of Nigeria. Terrorists don't discriminate. If I know very well that because my name is Shehu Sani, I can travel everywhere where Boko Haram and ISWAP and ISIS are, I will be traveling. But I know very well that if they catch me, if they apprehend me, if I get into their own custody, I will be no different from any other Nigerian. Yes, that is my own perspective on that.
Okay. Very quickly, as we wrap up this discussion, we've seen China play into this. We've also seen the Foreign Affairs Minister with a statement on constitutional protection of freedom of religion out on an international platform. Let me ask you, as a global affairs policy analyst, where do you see this ending? How will the dust settle? What will be the turn of events? Is this a politicization of lives of Nigerians, and this is not really at the core for the interests of those affected? Professor.
Good question. I think what's important for us as a country, and like you rightly said, so like what's like next? I think Nigeria has not done something right, and that is from because of the fact that our foreign policy system, our foreign affairs management system seems not to be well managed at the moment. I mean, there's still no explanation that we do not have an ambassador to the USA. It cannot be explained under any terms. I mean, since the Senate has approved some ambassadors and we refuse to release them for them to go do their job. Now, that itself shows the fact that we're not doing well in terms of our foreign affairs. We can't rely on Abike Dabiri or rely on the minister to drive foreign affairs in all the countries of the world. Maybe we don't have monies to have ambassadors everywhere, but you can't afford not to have ambassadors in countries that are critical to your interests, the US, the UK, the EU, China, Japan, some of your major importers or exporters. I think that for me is one of the most critical things. I think one of the ways we drop the ball, because all that is happening in the US is an indication of lack of effective engagement, lack of effective stakeholder engagement, lack of effective foreign affairs management. I think at this point, Nigeria will need to really go on and hire a professional to represent his interests in the United States. We have known there was a time when we have a Nigerian president that will work with organizations and representations like people like Andrew Young, Good Works International, that were like our face. This country at a point hosted the Global Sullivan Summit. One of the things we decided to do to when we're coming back after democracy came back, we need to have a high-powered, professional-led engagement with the U.S. Names of people like Professor Wole Soyinka. Unfortunately, this recent passport issue becomes another issue. Emeka Anyaku becomes very important between me and you. Chimamanda Adichie. Those global citizens that can knock on doors, that can make a difference. The CEO of the World Trade Organization is a Nigerian. That individual, that Mrs. Okoje-Iweala, is a global citizen. We have Nigerians in the Elders Council of Africa, for example. It's time for the government to put something together to start to negotiate with this government. I do not think, and I do not think that Donald Trump intends to send anybody to come and fight in Nigeria. And even if he thinks so, he does not have the right, the power, and he should not do so, because Nigeria is a sovereign nation. I am concerned China has gotten involved and Nigeria does not unconsciously get into the fight and break back between China and the USA. Yeah. I do not understand the reason why China gave that statement, particularly because it now makes it become polar. Nigeria should not find himself in the crossfire between China and US issues. But Nigeria needs to define a strategy. We need to define an arrowhead. We need to define what we want to do. And I think the least we can quickly do now is to start to talk about the appointment of those ambassadors. We should start to talk about also a strategic communication, what is really happening. If you remember, the first communication that came out when all this happened was our defense to say, oh, they were killing both Christians and Muslims. But the question is that is not a defense.
Right.
If somebody is claiming there is data that shows this category of people are being attacked, then it's what a logical and a rational and emotional response you should give. So if somebody says more Christians are being killed, your response cannot be Christians and Muslims are being killed. Show the data. I mean, we're Nigerians. We should have the data that shows what is really happening. And we can have a logical conversation on the one hand, and also have a rational, emotional conversation too.
Yeah, Professor, I wish we could continue. And I wonder what this will mean for China wading into this issue. But we do know that there have been documented unregulated and illegal economic activities, particularly with illegal mining. And sometimes we see that to always be those who are non-U.S. allies. Or pretty much is where we draw the curtains on this discussion. I must say thank you to you, Professor Yomi Fawehinmi, joined us from Canada, who's a global policy analyst. Also joining us earlier was former senator representing Kaduna Central, and that's Senator Shehu Sani.